Hello everyone, what is up? It is me, AlbyMTG. For today's video, we have 5 tools to help you win your Ravnica Allegiance pre-release. These are 5 things that I generally look at before each pre-release, just to kind of familiarize with myself with the set, because really that's one of the biggest advantages you can have going into pre-release is being familiar with cards that other people aren't familiar with. Definitely gives you a step up above your competition, and so it can be a pretty good way to help you, win some additional matches that maybe you wouldn't have won going in on an even playing field. This is a good way to maybe help you win an extra prize pack or two. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and talk about the 5 biggest tools that I think there are right now for you to increase your chances of playing well at the Ravnica Allegiance pre-release. First thing we're going to start off with is set reviews. I brought up 2 here in particular, limited resources as well as Nizahone Magic. You can see here in Nizahone's recent uploads, he has all of them here over the course of 7 videos. These 7 are all dedicated to the Ravnica Allegiance, reviews, previews, those sort of things. And then limited resources just has one 3-hour video where they talk about every common and uncommon right now. The rares are not covered in these videos from limited resources. They generally do one video talking about the commons and uncommons, and then another video talking about the rares and mythics. The rares and mythics video generally comes out after the pre-release actually happens, so you're only going to get to know the commons and uncommons from the limited resources review, but for Nizahone's review, you'll get to know all the rares and mythics as well. I think, personally, the pros and cons of each. Limited resources go significantly more in depth, and you're learning from a Pro Tour Hall of Famer as well as someone who spends a lot of time playing Magic and commentating and that sort of stuff, so you're getting a very expert opinion regarding all of these cards. And then when it comes to Nizahone, he's also just, a great player as well. Obviously not a Pro Tour Hall of Famer, so doesn't have, that credential on his resume, but he is just, a fantastic person, great to listen to as well, and his set will cover the rares and mythics. So if you are a little bit newer and maybe you're the type of person who would generally just look at a rare and say, yep, it's a rare, it has to go in my deck, maybe take a look at his review where he'll talk about, the pros and cons of some of the rares as well, because some rares just don't belong in limited decks, and so Nizahone can be a great resource for you to maybe learn about what rares you should be putting in your decks and what rares you should maybe be leaving out of your limited decks. Next up, we have sealed simulators. The one that we used here on the channel was Draft Sim. This was we used this for a video a couple days ago. What you want to do with Draft Sim is if you come down here to sealed, you can click sealed and then hit all, and then this will take you to an additional page. And on the additional page, you'll have the opportunity to choose your pre-release seeded pack. So if you want to get in some practice specifically with a pre-release kit of a color that you or of a guild that you think you're going to be for the event, for example, if you're thinking about choosing Azorius, you can click this Azorius button and it'll generate a Ravnica Allegiance Azorius pre-release kit sealed for you. And then same goes for Orzhov, Rakdos, Gruul, and Simic as well. So this is a great opportunity, again, learn a little bit about deck building. You can go ahead, let's go ahead and generate a Rakdos one here, for example. My computer is running a little bit slow, but it seems like it's going reasonably fast enough for the video. So this will generate us a sealed pool, and then we can go ahead and take a look through all of this. We can go ahead down here towards the bottom where we actually have a deck. So let's say we wanted to add, for example, we opened up double Simic Ascendancy. Let's say we wanted to add those to our deck. We just go ahead and click both Simic Ascendancies, and then it'll add them to our deck down here, and we can put together a pretty reasonable deck, or a pretty reasonable simulation of what it's going to be like when we're actually at the pre-release event. Once we've opened up our full pool of cards and we need to build the deck out of them, then this is a great way to possibly do so. They also have this the auto build portion as well, where if you are extremely new, then you can go ahead and click the auto build and it'll show you what the computer AI would have made out of this specific pool. Sometimes it does make mistakes. As you guys can see, Scrabbling Claws is in here. Scrabbling Claws is not a card that you should ever put in your limited decks, maybe as a sideboard card against hardcore graveyard decks, but I don't think there's even any of those in this format. So it gives you a pretty general idea of what you might be looking for, the kind of synergies, like, hey, you opened up 2 rares here, maybe you want to lead more towards Simic, you have some pretty reasonable filler cards, maybe you should throw some of these in here. But again, sometimes it makes, decisions like putting in Scrabbling Claws, which I just obviously completely disagree with. And so you can go ahead and get like a general basic idea from the deck but it's not like the auto build isn't like the most important resource. The most important resource about it is the ability to actually build your deck from the simulator. After that, we have the Ravnica Allegiance Instant Speed Tricks article from Samir Merchant. He puts up these He puts up these articles. I mixed videos and articles together. He puts up these articles every time a new set comes out, where he talks about every single instant speed trick. And knowing these can really help you out a lot during your pre-release games. Because if your opponent, for example, has 1 blue mana up right now, what do you think that they're holding, just off the top of your head? Right now, you may think, oh, there's got to be something in the set that they're holding. If we come down here to blue, you'll see there's actually nothing that they could be holding if it's just 1 blue mana. For every other color, that's not the case. But for blue in this set, since I've already looked through it, I know that if my opponent's holding up 1 blue mana, that I'm free to go. There's nothing that they could possibly have. If they're holding up 1 mana of any other color, then there's the chance that they could have something else. But this is a great way, again, to familiarize yourself with some of the tricks. It also, because a lot of these are, maybe some combat tricks and instant speed removal, those sort of things, maybe it'll show you the kind of cards that you're interested in actually putting in your deck, because you can take other people by surprise by taking a look at some of these cards that could, like clear the stage, for example, just a simple instant speed removal spell. Maybe, your opponent doesn't know that that instant speed removal spell exists, so you can take advantage of that. But maybe if they do know it exists, or if you know it exists, then you can maybe play around that once they pass the turn with 5 mana up. There's a ton of different things that they could have. And so just familiarizing yourself with some of the cards that they may have could definitely put you in a big advantage, especially when you're playing against other people. And then the fourth little tip that I have here, or I guess fourth tool that we have here, is going to be Scryfall. Scryfall, of course, is a great resource for all Magic players. It's just a fantastic place, and is a big help to this community. It's where I get like my card images from for like thumbnails and those sort of things. But it goes a lot deeper into that for the players who are just here playing Magic, not even necessarily just content creators. One of the reasons that I like Scryfall is it's a great way to familiarize yourself with the cards. You can come through here, read through each of the cards, kind of get a little bit of a sense for what the set is. You can see how many cards of each mechanic there are. Maybe you go through and you see, okay, there's X number of cards with addendum, so maybe I want to go with Azorius because there's a lot of addendum support. Maybe there's X number of cards with Afterlife, so maybe going with Orzhov could be decent because there's this number of Afterlife creatures, so maybe it is possible to make a good Aristocrats deck if I open up X number of Afterlife cards. Another thing that I do like with this, with Scryfall here, is that let's say we click something like the Benthic Biomancer, for example. Obviously it has, the card here, has the text, all this other stuff, even has the prices if you wanted to familiarize yourself with the prices of some of the cards that you're going to be opening up during pre-release. But when we come down here, there is the notes and rules information, which I think can be a big help as well. Some of these are really niche, but sometimes you can get these kind of rules that are really helpful to know. Especially, I think you should take at least the time to look at the rules section for at least one card with each keyword on it from each guild. So for example, Simic here has the adapt mechanic. So if we come down here, we can learn a little bit more about, what happens with the adapt mechanic. So for example, if a creature somehow loses all of its +1/+1 counters, it can adapt again and get more +1/+1 counters. I knew that from reading the rules text. There was nothing that says that it couldn't do that. So for example, I may have known that, but if you're a newer player, for example, and this is going to be your first pre-release, or, maybe you're just not super familiar with new mechanics when they come out, just go ahead and take the time to maybe read through the rules that are associated with it, because now maybe you know this tip that it can adapt a second time if the counter's removed. So that could be some helpful information for you. You can always activate an ability that will cause a creature to adapt as that ability resolves. If the creature has a +1/+1 counter on it for any reason, you simply won't put any +1/+1 counters on it. So that's actually something that you could possibly keep in mind as well. There is a card, for example, where is Stony, I think it's called Stony something? Yes, Stony Strength. Oh wait, never mind, that doesn't work. I was going to say, so this has put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, untap that creature. What was happening in my mind there was if my opponent went to activate adapt, for example, on something that had a big adapt on it, like maybe something like Zagana, for example. Let me just type in Zagana to bring her up. She has right here, this won't be the artwork that you're seeing, this is the artwork from the guild kits, but she has adapt 4. So for example, what was going on in my head there was maybe I could put this +1/+1 counter on it in response to my opponent trying to adapt, and then if I put the 1/1/1 counter on it, once the adapt tries to resolve, it's not going to get the additional 4 +1/+1 counters, and then my opponent would have spent 6 mana, and I would have spent 1 mana just to put 1/1/+1 counter on it. So that was the kind of interaction that was happening in my head there. Unfortunately, that doesn't work because Stony Strength does specifically say target creature you control. But for example, now that I know that that's the case, I can, maybe think about that for future instances when I'm playing in the game. There might be a niche situation going on where I need to do something like put a +1/+1 counter on one of my opponent's creatures so that they don't get a ton, or knowing that I can respond to, for example, my opponent, just doing things with the adapt on the stack, and possibly messing with the +1/+1 counters on it and the adapt number of +1/+1 counters. Here you draw a card and discard a card, all while Benthic Biomancer's triggered ability is resolving. Nothing can happen between the two, and no player may choose to take action. So yep, that's pretty self-explanatory for the Benthic Biomancer. Second ability here of whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are put on Benthic Biomancer, draw a card, then discard a card. And then the final rules thing that they have here, an ability that triggers when counters are put on a permanent, will trigger if that permanent somehow enters the battlefield with those counters. That's not super relevant, but the situation may come up where you end up with the Benthic Biomancer and the Combine Guildmage, where it has the ability that says for 1 green tap, this turn each creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. So now you know that if you have a Combine Guildmage and you're going to play that ability on the Combine Guildmage and then play a Benthic Biomancer afterwards, you are going to get one of these triggers from the Benthic Biomancer just for entering the battlefield, because it'll already have a +1/+1 counter on it from the Combine Guildmage's ability. So again, take the time to go through. You don't have to read through every single piece of rules text. That would just take way too long and would be significantly more information than any of us can retain. But it is a good idea to at least do it for, again, like I said, 1 card of each specific keyword. So 1 for adapt, 1 for afterlife, 1 for addendum, 1 for spectacle, and 1 for riot. That's the last one I'm forgetting. So go ahead and just maybe go through those, learn a little bit more about the rules associated with each of those keywords, and that could definitely help you out a lot as well. And then the final tool that we have for helping you in the pre-release is just the people around you. A lot of times 2 heads are better than 1, and so being able to ask questions to people that are around you, maybe regarding your deck building when it's time to actually deck build, or if you just, need to make small talk before the event begins, maybe say, hey, do you think that a 3/2 for 3 in this format or a 2/3 for 3 in this format is going to be better? Why do you think that? Let's have this, discussion. Having discussions regarding Magic is one of my favorite things to do, because it helps both people improve as players if they take the discussion seriously, and so it's something I really enjoy. Another thing that you could maybe, talk about them with is you have the ability of saying, like, hey, what 1-drop do you think is better for this, or maybe what 2-drop is better for my deck? So let's say, you opened up your sealed pool, you're going to be white, but you don't know whether you're more of an aggressive white deck or whether you're more of a control-y white deck. So maybe you ask the person sitting next to you, hey, for my deck, would you rather see this 2-drop, the Impassioned Orator, 2 mana 2/2, whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life? Or do you think that my deck is more aggressive and you'd rather see me play this Prowling Caracal, which is a 2 mana 3/1? And then the 2 mana 3/1 would of course be more aggressive than the 2 mana 2/2. So again, you can kind of like ask the people around you, what are your opinions regarding it? Ask them why they think so. It can generate good conversations regarding Magic. Sure, if you show up to your pre-release and you're all by yourself, for example, Magic players I've seen are just, if you surround yourself with the right group of people, even if you're just meeting them for the first time, you can really have a fantastic experience at pre-release. Everyone's just super happy to get their hands on the cards for the first time. Some people take it a little bit more seriously because, like, for example, myself, I'm trying to win prizes at the end of this. There's at the end of my last pre-release, the one for Guilds of Ravnica, I walked home with 10% off everything in the store for the next 3 months. 20 some packs of Guilds of Ravnica and a sealed copy of From the Vault Angels. So I'm playing for these higher up prizes. So for me, it's a little bit more important that I understand the cards in the set and things like that. But for the people who are just like kind of newer and just want to ask questions, learn a little bit more about the game, just enjoy playing it, those sort of things, then just talking with other people who are there to do the same thing as you can be a fantastic, fantastic experience for you here at Pre-Release. And so using the people around you as, ways to generate conversation about Magic, help you out, with your deck building and just talking about the game in general, it can be really, really fantastic. So with that being said, again, those are my 5 biggest tools to help you do well during your Ravnica Allegiance pre-release. We have the set reviews from channels like Limited Resources and Needs to Hone Magic. We have the sealed simulator here on DraftSim, the instant speed tricks from the MTG Goldfish article here from Samir Merchant, and then we have Scryfall to familiarize yourself with the cards a little bit more, and then talk to the people around you, use them as a resource. They're going to be there. You guys can use me as a resource too if you have a question that you want to put in the comment section below. I'll make sure to get back to you, of course. And yeah, with that being said, hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. Hopefully it'll help you out a little bit more as pre-release approaches very, very soon. And with that being said, I'd like to thank you all for taking the time out of your day to spend it with me here, watching this video. Had a lot of fun making it. Hopefully you enjoyed watching it. If you did, a like would be appreciated. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, and I'll see you guys here next time. Thank you all so much for watching today's video. At the end of all of my videos, I'd love to give a huge shout out to my Patreon supporters for the month. So thank you to Jeremy, Rodrigo, Jason, Daniel, BattleFMTG, Down Under MTG, and Jythe Swarren for supporting me on the Patreon page for the month of January. Greatly, greatly appreciate it. Good luck at pre-release. If I don't manage to make a video before then, best of luck to everyone. And I hope you guys do really well. Hope you guys have some fun. Should be a great time. And I'll see you guys next time.